Hello again, everyone. Edwin Leonard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about Venus transiting the second house in a natal chart. Now, on average, if your house, say, is about average size, where it's near 30 degrees, then you're going to be looking at Venus traversing that house for about 25 days on average if Venus is only direct during this transit. And however, if your house size is bigger and or Venus is going retrograde at any point during this transit, Venus will transit that house longer. Well, anyway, people, well, the first thing that stands out, obviously, okay, Venus transiting the second house is in its natural home. And it could indicate maybe a certain affluence during this period. It could indicate good financial acumen. You might be more astute in financial matters during this transit. It, if you're already in some kind of business that's flourishing and thriving, it could even add to that. If you're somebody that's looking for work, then it might enhance those chances of finding that job, especially if you have good transits during the period. As far as transit from Venus, if it makes predominantly good aspects to your natal points and planets. If it makes a good aspect, say a sextile or trine to your natal Jupiter at some point during the transit, that could be very advantageous. You look at this too, and this placement can indicate that perhaps relationships might play a role or play a more integral role than usual, maybe in your self-worth, in your self-esteem. They maybe a relationship. If you have a significant other, maybe you get something unanticipated, a possession, a new item from him or her, maybe even some money. If you're a situation when you're down and out, or you're as far as monetarily speaking goes, that's a possibility. This could be a period where you use perhaps a little more diplomacy, tact, and charm, and perhaps being able to attain something of a monetary nature and use more negotiating skills than usual. This could be a period where, you might have better judgment financially than usual. If you're somebody that invests, say, in the stock market, this could be an auspicious period for you for this transit. Well, look at this too. Okay, Venus transiting the second. Okay, Venus is about love, and it could indicate that you have a little bit more of a love for second house matters. You might be feeling better regarding how you feel about yourself, your self-esteem, your self-worth. Maybe more, you might be more love might be shown more toward your money. You might maybe feel a little more enamored with money than usual. You might feel more of this urge to be making more, generating income. And it could indicate that maybe maybe money could be made through something artistic, perhaps during this period, maybe the selling of artistic items, something you've had, maybe that's even appreciated in value over the years, an artistic item of a painting or some drawing, some sculpture. Maybe it's something from some famous artist in some isolated cases, and you're able to sell it and make a profit on it. This could indicate that maybe relationships play a stronger role just in your values. What you see is important right now. And this could also indicate that perhaps maybe you come and you connect with one or more people. Maybe that in as far as some relationship goes, perhaps through somebody connected with a money field, someone like a financial advisor, financial analyst, a stockbroker, somebody that is really dealing with money. Maybe could be a cashier. It could be somebody that works in a bank. A pawnbroker is another example. So I mean, those are some things to consider as far as Venus transiting your second house in your natal chart. And just because you have this transit, it's not going to automatically make you somebody that's going to be rich. But it could be favorable and auspicious more so than the average transit in terms of getting what you need. It might not be entirely what you want, but monetarily, if you're in some negative situation or some adverse situation monetarily, it might be where you're able to get that acquisition of what you need at that particular during this transit more so than most transits. So anyway, it's also important to look at the sign that Venus is in during this transit, as this could flavor the transit. So let's say, for example, that Venus is in Gemini for either the majority or the whole time of this transit to the second house. Well, this could indicate perhaps that purchasing things may be connected with mental stimulation, or it could play a strong role perhaps in your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself, doing things to enhance the mind, playing some games that could do this, like haiku, some mentally challenging games, and being in playing them well, maybe getting things like brain teasers. So it could even be intellectual stimulation in relationships that make you feel better about yourself during this time. Now let's say another example, let's say that Venus is in Cancer for either the majority or the whole time of that transit to your natal second house. Well, it could indicate that perhaps that you might show this love, this sentimentality of Cancer in connection with in caring toward your possessions during this time, toward the things you have, and those are some things to consider as far as those possible transits and those signs. Now, it's also important to look at, well, the aspects that are made to your planets and points in your natal chart from this transit, as this could impact the transit. Now, let's say, for example, that transiting Venus in your second house is making a square in conjunctor opposition to your natal Mercury. Well, this could indicate perhaps that relationships, they may be maybe somewhat disputatious or contentious for this period. It could indicate, because Venus being in the second house, maybe that love of money at this time might be doing something perhaps with your, as far as might be conflicting with your communications at this point in time. So that's something to consider. Now let's take another example. Let's say that transiting Venus in your second house is making a sextile or trine to your natal Venus at this time. Now, this could be auspicious for acquiring what you need at this time, as far as things for the second house, possessions, money, and also it could be a more favorable period for your self-esteem at this particular point in time, those things that you might need that are second house related. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Venus transiting the second house in a natal chart, and stay tuned next time where I'll be dissertating and talking about Venus transiting the third house in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.